All right, in this video, we're going to look at the human capital discussion, investment decision, and then we're going to make a model that we can draw to kind of understand this decision, and we'll do two examples of that. Okay, so how is it human capital investment decision? Well, one of the things is the costs are incurred up front. So for costs, we have two kinds of costs. We have our actual monetary costs that you might have to pay for school, and you also have the opportunity cost of your time and your effort, right? Tuition, books, costs we incur up front, we have to pay for them, and then we have our opportunity costs of our time. And the benefits are far off in the future. So many of the benefits you get from school, well, you may not see for many, many years. So it might be that the first job you get when you graduate may not pay that much more than the job you would have if you had worked for 4 years instead of going to school, if you just worked full-time. Okay, and I know some of you are probably full-time, are full-time workers and students, but just assuming you were not working while in school, then your difference of your salary might not be that big at first, but the difference tends to come later in people's career as they get 10, 20, 30 years into their career. They get a chance to build a career more, and often they get a chance to build a career more if they have higher levels of education. So you not only get higher future earnings, there's some evidence that education is also related to sort of what you can call general life satisfaction. It might have been, for example, a goal that you've always had for yourself that you wanted to have to get your degree, and so you'll feel happy with yourself for getting that. There's some evidence around other types of things like healthy living and maybe better chance in the marriage market and those kind of things that could be benefits as well. But again, these are off in the future. So we're weighing these costs right now with these benefits in the future. That's one of the other costs I should have put in here, and this cost will be different for different people depending on your personality and depending on your abilities. We also have the cost of effort. So school, you might have to work hard, and you might have to work hard doing academic work, and that's not for everybody. Everybody doesn't. Some people really like it. Some people like writing 10-page papers and doing research projects and all this kind of thing, and other people don't. And so if you're one of those people who doesn't like this is an extra cost for you, right? Because you might feel the experience of being in school to be quite painful. So anyways, we get the idea. So your degree of patience is also going to factor in here, because if you are more impatient, then you're not going to want to wait for these benefits that are far off in the future. And if you're more patient, then you'll be willing to wait for them, right? Because the costs are happening now, and you got to be willing to wait for the benefits. All right. So this graph shows us the basics of this decision. Now let's first just look at the frame of it. So forget about the actual graph itself. Let's just look at the x coordinates and the x and the y axis. Okay, so x-axis shows our experience in years, and our maximum experience is 47. So how do we get that number? Well, that is 65 minus 18. Okay, that's 47. So this is assuming you graduate high school at 18 and you'll work till you're 65. Now, it's possible you'll work longer than that. So if you do, you just add a few more years to this if you think you'll work longer than this. So that's the general. Year 0 here is just graduate from high school, and then year 47 is retirement, right? So this is kind of the idea that this is our retirement. And then it also assumes you're going to go to school for 4 years. So that's why this part is 4y. Okay, so this assumes you graduate high school at 18 and go to school for 4 years. I know this is not the actual case for many people. Many people work for a while and then go back to school later. Many people may spend longer than 4 years in school because they're also working or doing other things while they're in school. So I know this is not exactly the case. Now, what do we have next? This part, this box, shows the tuition that you pay while you're in school. So this is things like tuition, books. This shows this kind of things, this box. And each height represents 1 year, and then since there's 4 years, when we put those 4 parts together, we get all 4 years. Okay, so that's your tuition. Then the second thing is, well, what else could you do if you weren't in school? Okay, so if you weren't in school, so our direct cost is there, and then if we weren't in school, we could be working. And this line that I'm going to highlight in yellow shows how much would we have earned if we had gone straight to work. That's what the yellow line shows. Okay, and so while we're in school, this is assuming you didn't work at all. If you work part-time, for example, while you're in school, then you reduce this. Then you reduce this quite a bit. But this part right here, this indirect cost of being in school, this is our, we can call this our opportunity cost. Okay, so this is our opportunity cost of school, because this is what we would have been earning while we were in school. So you would have got a certain salary your first year, like suppose you would have gotten, this much, and then this much, and then this much, and we see your salary is growing. So this is our salary, what we would have earned if we had just gone to work when we were instead of going to school. Okay, so then what happens? So then you graduate, and when we graduate, we earn here at E. And we're assuming, this may not always be true, but we're assuming that when you graduate, your salary will be higher than it would be if you had started working after high school and worked for 4 years and moved your way up, although be limited by education. And so this line represents for college graduate. Okay, how much will the college graduate earn? So now we have our gross benefits. Our gross benefits is this difference, okay, compared to the high school graduate. How much extra does the college graduate earn each year? Okay, so that gives us our gross benefits. And then the yellow and the blue over here gives us our two types of costs. Okay, so we can put those two things together, and we can say, well, we get we can call it our net benefit equal to the gross benefit minus the costs, the two types of costs, both the indirect costs and the direct costs. And then we can use this to analyze some things. So for example, if, and I'll just draw something and then I'll erase it. If our I need to make a different color. If our potential earnings for high school grad were to go up, so high school grads start to earn more, and college grads don't change, then that would reduce the gross benefits, and it would mean less people want to go to college. Okay? If the potential earnings for high school grads went down, but the college grad doesn't change, then more people would want to go to college because it would make the gross benefits bigger. Same thing when we look at direct costs. If direct costs were to get really big because schools get more expensive, then that would decrease the number of people who want to go to college, right? And if direct costs got much smaller, or even went away, as some people have been campaigning for, then more people would want to go to school. So we can use this to show when we change the wage of the college grad or the wage of the high school grad, or we change the direct costs, then it ends up affecting the net benefit, and it affects the incentive for people to go to school. Okay, so that's this model. I'll come back in a homework exercise and have you try to make one for yourself.